Welcome back to another exciting episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. I'm your host, Teresa. So today, I want you to imagine that in front of you, you have a book of your life. And as you open up that book and turn the page to the outline chapter, one of the chapters might be Step into your spiritual path and unleash your innate powers. And that is what we're going to do in this episode. We're going to remember, reawaken, and ignite your inner spark with my special guest, Amanda Monnier. Amanda knows that she was put on earth to support people in waking up and remembering who they are. She helps empower her clients and helps them heal from the inside out, break ancestral patterns, and shift into the fullest embodiment of who they are at a soul level. She's an energy healer, a certified energetic allergy healing practitioner, certified magnetic mind coach, a certified yoga teacher, emotion code practitioner, a certified transformational nutrition coach, and holds a bachelor's degree in psychology. She's a woman on a mission who creates a movement of healed, intuitively connected humans, people who are truly aligned with their heart and soul, creating a life on their terms and passionately unleashing their gifts into the world. She is completely committed to her soul work of changing lives. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, Teresa. Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be awesome. I can feel it already.
I can feel it too. It's got some vibes going, right?
Yep, all the good vibes.
Well, the one thing I want to say, and I didn't obviously say in your bio, but you have been a law enforcement officer.
Yes, I was a probation officer. I did that career for about 6 years. I went through college and got my degree in criminal justice and psychology. And I didn't even know at the time that I was going to be going into law enforcement, but probation's kind of a perfect mix of the two. And so it was definitely part of my journey, but I ended up shifting out of that and into what I'm doing now. So everything all works out perfectly. But yeah, I did that for 6 years and I actually had my spiritual awakening while I was in law enforcement. So that was very interesting.
Oh, okay. Do tell.
Yeah.
I mean, Amanda, would you care to share that journey with us, please?
Yeah, of course. So it was probably about a year, 2 years in, and I had just broken up with a boyfriend. And it was like this moment where I hit this rock bottom, if you will, an emotional rock bottom. And I was like, gosh, there's just got to be more to life than this, because I had noticed this pattern in my life to where it was like, it just felt like I would like have these feelings and then it would just fall apart and be like all this repeat of these abandonment wounds that I later kind of unraveled, if you will. But it was just this moment. I remember, like, to this day, it was in the fall, and we had actually planned a trip. And so I had the week off and we broke up right before this. And I like hid in my house for like a week, took some more time off. And it was like that, my first experience of like, kind of like that dark night of the soul, where just all this dense, dark energy surfaced that I'd been holding within for so long. It was so painful. My whole body, I wanted to do anything I could to avoid it, to not feel it, it was just an experience like I had never had before. I'd had very painful breakups and things, but I had always kind of done the thing where I put a Band-Aid on it and move on, where this time it was just kind of like, okay, like there's more. I've always felt it since I was a little girl. Like there was something like so magical to be brought to this lifetime. And so I started asking questions. I later learned that the going within is one of the most powerful things, but I started going kind of that external journey where I started reading a lot of books, any book I could get my hands on, and taking courses. And, the few first things that I kind of, on my journey was the Conversation with God series and some of Carolyn Mace's books. She's brilliant. And Esther Hicks. So some of those things around like the law of attraction, I was like, okay, cool. Like I could do this. Like I could learn this stuff. And so like many years, there was about probably 4 or 5 years while I was still in law enforcement. And I was like, hiding in this spiritual closet. Like no one knew. Everybody knew that I was a little different, but nobody knew to the extent of how different I really was, as far as not even different, because we're all spiritual beings, but as far as like the things that I was doing on my off time.
Right. Underneath the sheets, right? Like no one really knows what's going on over here.
Underneath the ballistic vest.
Right. Well, it's interesting because, as we all have unique journeys, I recently was just talking to my husband about this because he's obviously on a spiritual path too. And we do our work together with T&T Spirit Works.
I love that.
And yeah, it's really cool. I'm very blessed. And we were talking about how you can't really obviously judge a book by the cover. Like we don't know what they're doing underneath the outer facade. So we have this, and there's people that obviously like us are coming out saying, hey, we do this, but there are a lot of people that are not, or are needing our assistance to move forward in searching spiritually. And how do I work with what I'm feeling and picking up on every day? And, how do I work with the guidance or the insights I'm getting? And so it's that kind of, insight, that not judging what, like I'm looking at you, I'm like, okay, well, there's Amanda, but, and underneath Amanda's a spiritual healer and a teacher and et cetera. And so it's just not judging what other people look like from the outside, because you just don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have no idea what someone's going through. And the things that I've learned in the last couple of years are that like my relationships and the people around me are my best teachers. Like they show me these parts and aspects of myself that I actually have come to like appreciate, even if it's something that's painful coming up. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a gift. Whereas before I was like, I'm going to be in the victim mode and I'm going to get upset about it. And I'm going to try to distract myself or, blame whatever. It's just so powerful, like how much we are actually, because it's like, there's this aspect of like the individual and the going within and this remembrance of who you are at that soul level and what you came here to bring and express to the planet, because I truly believe we all have a unique soul frequency, soul blueprint, if you will. And so it's that in conjunction with our own connection to source and bringing that out, plus how beautiful it is to have community as well, because this unity consciousness where I do believe that we're heading is also powerful. So it's like this one and the same, but it's different, right? Because it's like an inside journey, but like that whole notion that we are all one anyway. So it's kind of like two sides of the coin, but it's just two aspects of how like beautiful this journey is and really how we can actually help each other in such a beautiful way. And instead of looking at all the things that are divisive or different, we can actually kind of shift the focus to look at the similarities on some of these things that we may have in common. Like you said, even sometimes our first instinct is to judge, where it's like, well, maybe I can like take a step back and either just like notice the judgment coming up. And maybe again, like I mentioned to you offline, like I loved your episode on the mirroring, because that's been something that has just been, I'd heard that many times, many years ago. And I was like, okay, yeah. But I didn't fully understand the gravity of how powerful it is. And it's just something that has absolutely changed my life in the last couple months, looking at these things as, we can say when you're triggered or activated, this energy, because if it's coming up with inside of us, then that indicates to me that it's in your energy field. And instead of responding and reacting like our ego and our unconscious always loves to do, because it's like we want to be safe. And maybe it's something that's been there for so long that we don't want to feel, because what we would have to acknowledge, we'd have to acknowledge a lie. That's what we'd have to acknowledge, because it's simply not us. And so it's just such a powerful tool to be able to see these things from a different perspective. And I truly believe as a collective, that's where we are going, even though it seems like things are a little messy. The lies have to come up so that we can acknowledge them and release them, because we can't build the foundation of this beautiful thing we're creating on lies and on all this density.
Amen, sister. No. Well, so a couple of things that pop in my mind as you mention all this is that, so right now I do believe we're in an amazingly healing time period, but there's so much on both ends of the polarity. Like there's no gray, or there's not much gray. So it's like people have to get on both sides. They have to come to that gray space where then they can move into non-judging and acceptance and understanding that, this person can feel that way and it's okay. And that person can want that, and that's okay for their life because that's for their experience. But they're so right, and everything is so polar opposite. But I have a feeling, and I'm have chills, I'm saying this, in the next year, 2022 and moving forward, there's going to be a lot of other shifts coming, because of course change is constant as we're here on the planet. That's, a given. What's the one thing we know? That we're going to, well, once we're born, we know we're going to die, and we know everything's constantly changing. So, knowing that we're coming to a space where all of us healers and all of us spiritual people and are here to assist people and where they're at, because as you were also mentioning your journey and how you came to the dark night of the soul, and how a lot of people have to have that. They have to either have a cancer or, a big event happen that shakes them to the core, where then they have to go, okay, so I need some help. And what do I do? And then they reach out for Amanda or Teresa or many of the other 1,000, beautiful souls that are here to actually assist people on this journey. Because we're going to have a lot of work, Amanda. I'm sure you've been tapping into that, girl.
Oh, I feel it. And like you said, I was getting chills too when you said 2022, because I think that October has been a huge month, the month that we're in, because I feel like we are ending that age of the lie, of all this deceit and all these dark templates. And I do think that even the last year, it served its purpose because it's that catalyst. Like it may not have, things may not be moving as rapidly as they're moving right now, but they are moving rapidly. And so moving into the next several years, things are going to change as we know it. I can't even fully wrap my head around it. I had some, downloads and things come through, and I do believe we're on the cusp of this golden age that we're ushering in, but there is going to be like a rebuilding phase, and there is going to be a lot of things coming up still, because, I don't think that, although sometimes there's, miraculous healing, like part of the journey is the healing of all of these things, the trauma. But it's like also, again, two sides of that coin, because I truly believe we're conscious creators. So we don't have to focus on the negative, because it's like, what's showing up in my life? There's a difference between, okay, this is showing up to be healed, rather than me spending 24 hours a day going and digging in and trying to find stuff that's wrong with me. Like, we're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. However, there are things in your field. We all have them. I don't know anybody personally that has mastered this journey just yet. So
I think they're off the planet, right?
yeah, exactly. Right. But I just truly feel like it's just, we did choose to be here in this time and to really be a part of this ascension process, because simply put, I truly believe ascension is just our ability to hold more light and embody more of who we are at that deeper level. And in order to do that, again, we just have to release and dismantle all these stories and all these things that aren't true. And the thing is wherever you're at is perfect, because they may have served you at one point in time to keep you safe. Like, there are a lot of things a lot of patternings and things that I had as a child moving through relationships that did keep me safe, because I didn't have the tools at that time to handle certain things that were coming my way. And so that was how I kept myself safe, was being in my masculine. I was all in my masculine, hence the probably why I know why I ended up in law enforcement. So it just, again, wherever you're at right now is just perfect for everybody listening. It's just where you need to be.
Exactly. And I hear you, because I'm raising my hand for those that can't see if you're not watching a video. I'm raising my hand because I went into the military, and so right back into that masculine. My last lifetime, I was a military too. So I kind of went back and did some healing at that. So it was really great. But I want to ask you about levels of consciousness. So I believe that we're all at different levels. So, everyone vibrationally is at a different place. What they believe in is at a different place. So how are you, or should I say, are you noticing that in people? Because that's what I've been like lately, kind of having some questions about when people I'm working with, because I'm talking to people at a certain level, and then I will, oh my gosh, they don't even get what the hell I'm saying, because I'm talking up here when I need to be down here. So have you been experiencing that too?
Yeah. Yes and no. I do believe there is, because it's like, I think there's a wave. I know there's a wave of people that are waking up right now. And so a lot of these people are maybe where we were, 4, 5, 6 years ago, whatever it was, where you're just kind of like starting to acknowledge, because I truly believe one of the first things is acknowledging that you are an infinite soul having a human experience. And then the journey, this whole journey is just a remembrance of who you are, right? So as we continue to remember these parts, aspects, maybe it's wisdom from different lifetimes, maybe it's gifts, certain gifts that you wanted to bring forward. Because at the end of the day, like, I truly believe what being human is about is having this beautiful experience, all based around love and unity, and just like, it's just a beautiful thing, but it's just, we got to get back there.
Right.
So as far as like different levels of consciousness, yes, because I think that there are some individuals, and I was having a conversation with someone about this recently, that again, if we go back to like this stuff kind of around the lie, they're not really fully ready to see it, because that would mean everything they've ever lived in their whole life, or even maybe done for their career, it's like that identity piece, those identity pieces and those attachments that we hold so dearly, because it's like, again, what keeps us safe, the ego, the unconscious, that's the ego and the unconscious jobs to keep us safe. And so if we start to dissolve those, it's like, I don't even know what's real anymore. And I've actually had some of those moments recently where I'm like, I literally can admit, I don't know what's real anymore. And it's so humbling, and I'm okay with it, because it's like, then that creates this beautiful flow to where you're like, I don't have all the answers. And then it's like this flow with God, source, universe, and your higher self, like doing this dance with the universe. And I do think that there are even some souls that I've chatted with that are, you know, even in other higher levels of consciousness, to where I'm just like, they speak and I'm like, my soul hears you, but my conscious mind needs a minute. Like there's these, one of my mentors that I actually recently connected with, is Kyle Cease. And if anybody listening, like, I would suggest like checking out his stuff, because it was like, for me, at least, next level of where I was ready to go. But sometimes he speaks and I'm like I just mentioned, I'm like, okay, my soul knows what you're saying, like, but I need a week to integrate this wisdom, because it's just, but that all shows up when we're ready for it. So it's like, you know, and again, the soul knows at the deeper level, the higher self, because if we think of the higher self as like this field of information that contains all the information about you, your past lives, what's going on with your DNA, because I do believe there's also a DNA up leveling for those that are ready on the planet right now. Because our divine DNA is that of a crystalline blueprint. It's not this carbon-based DNA that has been spliced over the years. And so that's part of the ascension process. And that's where it again goes back to what you came here for and what you're ready for. Because I do believe there were also some souls that took on different tasks to help the ascension of the planet and where we are choosing to go. So it's very interesting. And even, I don't know if you've dove into this, but the parallels between Atlantis and Lemuria too, with what's going on now, I'm like, I'm like mind blown.
I have chills, and many of us were there. So we remember. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of research actually on these parallels, and even with the things that they're doing with people. I don't know what platforms this is going on, so I'm not going to say certain words, but, and the isolation stuff, like the parallels of this, and this was prior to like the destruction. So I do believe we actually came here to change the course of history, so we don't repeat history in that way. And we already have mechanisms in place to where I don't think there's any stopping like our evolution and ascension. I really don't.
Yeah, without a doubt. Wow. Yeah. So, that was a lot of stuff right there. Blew my mind, Amanda. No. So the thing that I want to tap into is that if you're not ready for something, you're obviously not going to be able to understand what it is. And what comes to me on that is that, like, recently they were talked about UFOs, right? I mean, they were coming out, you know, and the pictures, and it was all over the media. I think it was kind of trying to be a diversion too, but so say like, you know, they landed, and like most people, or there's a lot of people in different realms of beliefs that would be like, it would blow their mind.
Oh,
like if there was aliens,
lose it.
Oh yeah, they would freaking lose it. And they'd be like, what the hell? So, you know, that kind of thing too. But, you know, so I guess meeting people where they're at and what they need on their spiritual journey is the important thing. And So let's talk about now the work you do and the unique energy healing work. So we can talk now about, ways that we can support people. So tell me about that, Amanda. Share with us and my listeners your beautiful healing work.
Yeah. And it even continues to grow and evolve as I change too. So one of the things I do, starting out, going back to like you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed. So that's like one of the main things that, and also reminding people that they're a part of this healing journey. So I'm not the type of healer that you're going to come to and I'm just going to sit there and do a healing for an hour and you're just going to lay there. Because I truly believe that's disempowering. At least from my perspective and what I've been guided to step into and to have my clients be a part of it, because I found that in the past, when I did that, it's like either the issues would come back or it just wouldn't, like, there's something so powerful about someone having a remembrance in that aha moment. Oh my gosh, like this is it. Like, this is what's coming up. And so again, going back to the fact that we're conscious creators. So I always have people tune into, like, because if we talk about the quantum reality, which is basically in simplified, all the aspects, all the possibilities of anything you want to choose in this life. And we all have these specific things that are in alignment with our heart and soul. And I truly believe God didn't mess up when those things in your soul were things that you deeply, truly desired. So that you are supposed to have those things. So first things first is acknowledging and setting an intention and feeling into it and having the body have that experience, your whole field have that experience of actually calling it in and planting those energetic seeds. Because if not, then again, we're doing, the healing work is beautiful. It's the secondary thing we do, but it's this conscious creation piece that is just like, it creates this beautiful structural tension to where then if you think of like a bow and arrow, because anywhere there's tension wants to resolve. So you pull the bow back and then the arrow wants to fly forward. And so the energy healing part is all around releasing resistance to being able to flow towards that. And so there's all kinds of different modalities and techniques that come up, and it's really specific to who I have in front of me and where they're at, because I have some clients that have been with me for months and months, and they're ready to, like, they're remembering their gifts and their intuition. And so sometimes it's a little bit more led by the client. Sometimes it's a little more led by me, but still working with the client and their own connection to source, because I always tell people, it's like, what's best for you better than anybody else. So I use all my modalities I've morphed into kind of like one, like, I don't even necessarily have a name for it at this point, but I am going to be doing a certification program in the next couple months. So I'll probably have to come up with a name, but it's a combination of things. But one tool I use, it's called a recode. So it is working at, again, this quantum level, working with the neurology. So literally the whole body, the DNA, the cells, because sometimes it depends on what's coming up. It may be something that's ancestral. I've had to do a lot of generational work, a lot of ancestral work. I've actually found that is one of the easier things to release, because it's not something that, like, for me, like, it wasn't something that I created. It was something that was passed down to me. So I didn't have that as deep of an attachment, because when we're doing this kind of work, we also want to pull it out at the root. If we trim off like branches of a tree, they're going to grow back, right? The leaves are going to grow back. And so another thing that I found to be extremely powerful is, again, sometimes it just takes, like, I'll give an example. Like, one of my core wounds was this abandonment wound that I carried with me. It was probably 25 years or so. And I just got to the bottom root of it last month. And it was one of the most powerful things, because what I did, and meditation, again, this is kind of going to circle back to meditation too, is I just stopped everything. I sat down and I acknowledged that I didn't have all the answers and that I needed help. I needed help. Like, I needed help from the divine. I needed help from my higher self. And I sat with it. I sat there. I didn't judge it. I didn't try to fix it. I didn't try to change it. I asked for all the sensations and all this energy to bubble up in my body. And I cried for about an hour. And I've done a lot of work around this wound, but I was like, there's still something, like the core, like the nucleus, if you will. And I just could feel it dissolve. I've never had an experience like that in my entire life, but I just felt it just completely dissolving within this hour. I cried. I just felt this release in my body. And it was a good reminder that sometimes it's like, we can even use tools and techniques as healers as a way to bypass just acknowledgement. Because if you even think of it as like this inner child, right? If a child's crying, we're not going to be like, okay, let me just throw this at you. And like, let me try to fix it. Let's talk about it for an hour. It's like, no, you're going to pick that child up and you're going to hold that child, embrace that child, and just like hold space to some degree. Like, you may say certain things, but it's a different, it was a different way that I had acknowledged in the past. So again, it's just kind of a combination of things on where people are at. But those are some of the things I found really powerful. And that last one I mentioned, like, people can, use, I mean, we can use that. And then some things I think too, I've noticed it's like, some things I've had my personal bias on. So I do have different coaches and healers that have helped me move through some of those things. So
what I hear you saying, Amanda, is you meet each client where they're at. You've got a beautiful toolbox to work with and you rock it. Is that what I hear you saying, Amanda?
Oh, that's so sweet. That's very sweet of you.
That's just what I hear you saying, lady. I mean,
yeah. I mean, again, it's like, I acknowledge that it's coming through me, and I set the intention to be of service in the highest way that I possibly can. I don't claim to know it all. My clients are, beautiful guides for themselves, and just the whole process. So again, it's like, okay, what are we ready to let go of? What's presenting itself today? Like, what's showing up? Because even going back to, we're talking about some body stuff. Our body is a reflection. These physical pains and things that come up are just a manifestation of these energies that are held inside the body. There's nothing like no pain or, physical. Like for me, I had suffered from acne my entire life. And it was all related to like this deeply rooted trauma. Like it was like this rejection stuff, this core wounding, like it was heart stuff. A lot of skin stuff can kind of be tied to the heart, as at least from my experience in working with people and myself. And so I've just seen it continue to just like release and these physical manifestations. Because even down to acne stuff can be different yeasts, viruses, and bacteria. And these actually all resonate at the frequency rate, the frequencies of certain emotions. So you have viruses and bacteria resonating with the frequencies of guilt, shame, and unworthy. It's like Velcro, like it's like a moth to a flame. So if you have these frequencies in your field, and then you come in contact with these different viruses, whatever it might be, it's magnetic. It's like anything else in the universe that it's just the way that these things work. Like attracts like at a very basic level.
I have an interesting thought about that just came to me that I have not thought about yet. The situation where a lot of people are doing things right now, that they may have magnetized that to them because of something inside. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because the whole thing that's going on right now is anchored in chaos. It's anchored in fear. And there is a helplessness energy around it. And so what the things we're worried about are the things we manifest. We manifest those things. To me, what's going on right now doesn't exist in my reality. So I haven't done one thing different this entire time. I really haven't. And so that it really speaks to the power of our ability to create our own reality. And then we continue to raise our frequency and our vibration because I haven't really heard it, at least not mainstream, on anything as far as like meditate, love yourself, spend time in community, get some sunshine. Like, so to me, the critical thinker in me comes out and I'm like, wait a minute here. Like this just, I don't know, smells to me. But again, these templates that are dissolving, they really are. I truly believe that. It's just, again, if we even go back to that mirroring, right? Because I went through a period of this where I had to acknowledge where I was getting triggered. I was getting extremely triggered by this stuff going on. And I've come to a place of neutrality with it because I acknowledge Like there were some deeper things that it was triggering within me from past life, past timelines, things to where it was like that suppression energy with the things on the face. And, you know, even with the thing that the thing that they're giving people, the medicine. And so it was just kind of very interesting for me to now come to this place to where I'm in this place of neutrality, and I don't have to allow that to like pull me into what others are doing and experiencing, because maybe that's something that they need to experience before they can shift and really have some realizations. It's like a baby learns to crawl and we start picking the baby up, trying to get it to walk. Well, no, it needs to go through its process. And it's not my job to say, well, the way you're doing it isn't the right way. That's just where I've come to be able to be in a place of peace with it, because I went down some rabbit holes. Like that could be a whole nother episode, just fun rabbit holes, right? You did too.
I think we all have been. Yes. Yeah. Up and down.
Yes.
And, for myself, like as soon as that started, like I just knew my whole cellular being knew, don't go there. Like that's not where I'm going. And so, like you said, everyone's got different journeys, but as healers, and what I kind of hear you saying about for your clientele is that you're holding a container for them, a beautiful healing container. And whatever they step into that container and where they're at, you're meeting them. And also, Amanda, I want to mention too, I've been obviously doing a lot of podcasting and interviews lately, is there's so many people, beautiful healers, that if we do our work and we walk our talk, which is exactly what you're doing by your own healing, that in itself is a healing for the planet. That in itself is a healing for every person that comes to us and says, Amanda, I want to work with you. Because you've done that work, they're going to resonate with you. They're your apprentices. They're ready to do the work on whatever level they are, because you have done your work. So bravo.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. No, I'm 100% real with my clients too. It was several days ago, because I've just learned I'm practicing surrender, and I woke up and I felt off. The dreams have been unreal this last week and a half. And I know that I'm not the only one experiencing that. And I woke up one morning and I cried for like 30 minutes on my kitchen floor, and I got up and I was fine. And I went about the rest of my day, was able to do everything. I'm like, okay, cool. Because I didn't have an attack. I was like, I don't even really need to know. Like, I knew I didn't need to know what was coming up. It just was something that was ready to be released. And if we can look at it from that perspective, because it's like the human loves to attach labels to everything. We love that. It makes us be able to, give meaning to stuff. And it's like, I get it. Believe me, I get it. But sometimes it's like, do we have to? I don't know. Right. I could have maybe spent all morning trying to figure that out, but I was like, 30 minutes is good. I'll go with this. And then we're just going to move on.
And that's the thing, is people get stuck in that loop. And so it's getting out of that loop, or that narrative that goes around and around and around. And it's helping people, step out of that, or they get to a point where they want to step out of it. And I think that's what 2022 is about. Especially I've been tuning into the spring. There's going to be a lot more things happening, and a lot of people ready to, step out of the narrative, because like you mentioned earlier, the lies and some of the truths are going to be coming out, and more things are going to be presented to them, where they're going to be like, wow, this is what happened. And this is what I'm going through. And yes, it is, because that's the narrative of right now. And so what do you want to choose, and how do you want to shift things for your journey?
Yeah. And going back to that remembrance, like, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be you? I remember when I was towards the end of my career, I was like had been doing some of the spiritual work, and I was like, gosh, like, I remember there were moments where I was like, I don't even know who I am. Because I was just doing everything based on society standards and what we're conditioned, because the conditioning is a thing on this planet. And that's like it's like a matrix to me is not necessarily a place. It's like the psychological mechanism that keeps you small and keeps you from living in your authenticity and your truth, because that right there is what's going to change the planet. And it's just, it's happening. I see it every day. And it's like, it gives me like this, it's like, I don't even need to worry about it anymore, because I just know it's done. Like, it's just done. Like, I truly believe that it's just, again, like you mentioned, kind of the beginning of next year. And I also think that if this was done in a way that it was like, okay, here's all the stuff, like people would like it is kind of a very, dainty is not the word I'm looking for. What's fragile, I guess. I mean, the way, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say? Like the way that this is acknowledged and rolled out when some of the stuff does come out, because like, I think that it's a lot to digest, especially if you don't know what's been going on because of the illusion. So as the curtain lifts, as the veil lifts, as you begin to remember who you are and ask those questions and go within, because the best advice I could give you is to go within and because even if like you have all the stories on all the density, even if you pause for a moment and drop your energy and attention back to your heart and really access, like to me, that's like kind of the portal to the soul, and access that information, you'll start to get some answers. Like you'll start to get some of those pings and remembering like those intuitive hits. And because we're all intuitive, I know that in the past it's been like, oh, psychic, woo woo. Like, no, we're all intuitive. We all have the ability, but what's blocking that intuition is the density. And the density is those lies and the limiting beliefs and the trapped emotions and, the projection that we keep, repeating the cycles of, like, for example, like maybe a relationship pattern. And you're like, oh gosh, well, they always leave, men suck. It's like, nope, flip the script and see where you're holding this energy within you. I know it might sound harsh, but I tell you from experience, I tried the alternative and it's just delaying the inevitable because that energy is in you and it's not going away until you acknowledge it.
Right. And so acknowledging that you've got some beautiful ways that you can support people on your website. And I know you also have a podcast, Up-Leveled as Pho, which seems so fun. I said fun.
Yep.
With a friend, right? You do that. That seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, my business partner, Emmy Hernandez. So she does all the soulmate love and relationship coaching, and she's like the business coaching, and then I do the health and like the spiritual ascension stuff and the life purpose stuff. Those are like, so we kind of come together and it works out perfectly. We balance each other out. And so, so we have a master class that we're starting, and it starts the first week in November. And this masterclass is going to be focusing on all like the 4 pillars: love, money, life purpose, and health. And so it's the energy work that I do one-on-one. We want to just get this out to as many people as possible. And so we're doing the group work, because this work can be done in a group setting. So it's like this conscious creation. And I don't know who doesn't want to up level in all areas. Like for me, I'm like, I want to feel good in all areas of my life.
You're like, I'm in D, all the above. I'll take D.
All the above. Yep, exactly.
Well, great. Well, Amanda, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. It has been a pleasure talking with you and getting in touch with your energy, because you're rocking it, girl.
Oh, thank you so much, Teresa. I love it and hope to stay in touch. This is awesome. I've had such a good time.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you so much. And so thank you all listeners for listening in to another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. And just remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey.